Okay, and everybody, hello once again, dear friends. Now, can I ask you to please put into the chat from 1 to 10, how well can you see and hear me? I hope that everything is good. I have changed the place where I am. Now I am in the city of Voronezh today. And I hope that today we'll have a good connection and that you will be able to hear me well. I hope that we'll have good sound, we'll have good lighting. So just let me double check here again. Okay. So, let's start this webinar. It's going to be recorded. Later, I think we're going to cut it up a bit to use it later as educational material in our company. I think that this is going to be interesting to both be present here and to maybe ask away at some questions for me to be able to answer them right away. Today, we're going to be talking about the products of the company. We're going to be talking about the products of the company that are significantly different from the products that are being sold on the market right now, that are being sold in pharmacies, that are being sold by the competitors of our company. And I will try to simply and as concisely as possible get this across, try and decipher all the information that I'm going to give. All this information is present in open sources. You can double check it all online. Of course, in verified sources, not just on some random websites. You can read up on this by yourself later if you want to, but everything that I'm going to talk about with you here right now, it's all my own thinking, my own thoughts, my own conclusions that are based on the achievements of science that are present here right now. And I'm going to start with an overview of medicines, and then I'm going to continue with an overview of the market of supplements, of the market of vitamins and minerals that are being sold right now. I'm going to speak about how we are different. I'm going to talk about why it is very important to understand what is it that you eat, what is it that you drink, what is it that you breathe, and why is it very important to understand that if you're going to start working in this business, it's important to know what you're doing, because you can help or you can bring harm to both yourself and the people. And our main principle, the same as with the doctors, is the principle of not to do harm. And I'm going to be talking about this calmly today without too much emotion being thrown into the screen in order to try and get my ideas and the ideas of our company across as possible. So let us start with the following. As I said, let us start with the market, the healthcare market, and the way it developed. Now, once again, this is my improvisation on the subject. Perhaps bloodletting came across prior to herbs and to roots, because maybe they did this earlier. Perhaps bloodletting was earlier, but because people, first of all, learned to destroy each other, warring with each other, or encountering wild animals, and then only later they have perhaps encountered the use of herbs and other healing plants, which allowed them to retain their health or to resolve issues that came up back then. Then we saw the development of surgery or pharmacology, of the supplement market. Right now, there is a great market for healthy lifestyle. There is a great market for healthy foods. And I am calling these things a market because they are a market. There is, a market of esoterics. There is a market of religion. There is a huge variety in directions, each one of them containing a huge amount of content with a large amount of followers, fans, and disciples of each of these directions. And when I say market, I mean a community of people that are engaged in exchanges using these products or an exchange of information using these products. And it is natural that we currently have certain medicines. If you go to a medical congress, or if you go to a doctor, right now they have medicine for anything, for all the diagnosed illnesses mostly. And I'm just talking about statistics in the broad sense. So if I am speaking about certain numbers, I don't mean them to be precise, I mean them on average in statistics. Like, there is a certain percentage of diseases that currently cannot be treated fully because they don't yet fully understand their nature and how they can be treated, but I'm just speaking in broad terms right now. Now, the work of the majority of medicines consists of two ways of working. They either stimulate or they suppress. This is a very important principle to understand. Let's say we take antibiotics. Let's say we have a bacterial infection, something simple, some gut infection. So what do? We suppress it using antibiotics. Let's say there's pneumonia or something else. Along with this, other things are suppressed as well. Or, for example, we have immune system problems. What do? We start taking different pharmacological goods, different supplements in order to stimulate our immune system for it to come victorious. But all this impacts the body, and medicine is something that is originally designed in order to impact our body. But I'd like to just take a step back right now. Look, a person has, I think, two biggest and greatest values with which he or she is born. It's the value of the feeling of freedom and the value of the feeling that pushes a person towards trying to obtain harmony. Harmony with oneself, harmony with the friends, harmony with the family, with your husband, your wife, and freedom. If we take any political movement, if we take all the politics that currently exist, and, I can't even call it a different word now, but it parasites. It's parasiting on the values of freedom. It's calling for freedom. It's fighting for freedom, sometimes quote-unquote freedom or sometimes quote-unquote fight. But apart from this, there is also the value of harmony. The value of harmony is something that almost all religions and spiritual development practices in the world are based on, starting with yoga and going into different religious practices. Now, because the politics and religion are based on these two values, on harmony and freedom, then we need to ask ourselves, where do these values come from? Are we born with them? And here it's very interesting because these two values of harmony and freedom, they also can be found in our health and in our cells in our body, in our cells, in our tissues, in our organs, in our organ systems. They can be found in our body in its entirety. And we think, what can happen if we start applying pressure to the body with medicines or with overdosing with biologically active supplementation, or if we start applying pressure using a lack of sleep? When you start thinking, 3 hours of sleep, 4 hours of sleep, I can handle this. What is going to happen if this continues building up? Now, we are going to see a very powerful reaction. Now, this slide says here, what is going to happen if you continue applying pressure to the body? You are going to get the body resisting to this pressure. You're going to get a certain amount of internal settings going wrong. You're going to just get a general reaction of the body. Now, just imagine you're like a free person and I start applying pressure to you. I start, for example, morally pressuring you, telling you to sit down or stand up or to try and pressure you into doing something. But nevertheless, I'm going to get a reaction from you. There is even law, the strength of action is equal to the strength of the counteraction. Now, the same way and the same thing applies to your cells. Now, if we were to talk about medicines like we're talking about on the slide, then when you go to your doctor or professional healthcare practitioner, I'm not saying it's bad, because sometimes there is no other way, because we need to go there and make sure that the symptoms don't cause us extra harm. But usually when we take medicines, these medicines, they force our illnesses into chronic form. This is the way it is structured. So alongside treatment, we're going to get side effects when we take these medicines. But most importantly, we're going to get side effects after we stop taking these medicines as well. Now, you can compare taking in these medicines with a very intensive physical exercise. So, for example, when you are engaged in this physical exercise, everything is going well. Your mood improves, your blood circulation improves. But in the very morning, during the next day, for example, over the next 5, 6, or 7 days, your muscles become sore and you can't even move. And this is a withdrawal symptom of sorts. And this is a very similar thing that happens to almost all medicine. Now, I'm going to continue directing your attention towards this, that in almost every little side note you get with medicine, it says everything. It states a lot of things, but it never states the side effects of when you stop taking the medicine, because it tells you what's going to happen while you take it, but what's going to happen after you stop taking it. It seems that this is a simple question. But as I've said, people are born free, and nobody likes when they have pressure applied to them, and your body is not an exception. Because if your body experiences pressure, now look, the more pressure we apply, the stronger we're going to get a counter reaction. It's like a spring. When we try and squeeze it together, it's going to then try and unwind more powerfully. Or, in the worst case scenario, it can break entirely. But these is when we talk about very harsh side effects. It's when we get a complete destruction of homeostasis or partial destruction of homeostasis in our body. So harmony and freedom are natural values. From the very childhood, in all the spiritual practices, in family, in relations, pressure is something that brings us only negative side effects. And now we're going to examine at how pressure, we're going to look at pharmacological pressure, we're going to look at the supplement market pressure, we're going to look at overdose of supplements or vitamins and everything that is so popular and prevalent right now. What exactly is going to happen? How exactly are we going to get that flashback? This is precisely the topic of our conversation now. Now, let's look at what comes with the notes to the medicine. Now, you can just take anything you have in your aid kit right now. We can see like dosages, when to use, pharmacological group, side effects while we're taking the medicines. We'll be able to see the overdose and when not to take them. But not a single medicine states what is going to happen after you stop taking the medicine. What is going to happen to your body after you stop taking it? And once again, going back to the gym analogy. Second example, alcohol. When we drink, we feel great, we feel happy, we don't feel like we're being intoxicated or poisoned, but come morning and we find it difficult to get up. And this is once again a clear example of what's happening to the body when we stop taking a certain thing. Now, the market of supplements, I call it a market, but what is it? Is it a treatment against all diseases? Is it a panacea, or is it an attempt to buy off your health? And this is something that I'm going to mention today a number of times. For example, over 2021, in the US alone, there were over 50 billion US dollars worth of supplements purchased. And this is done by healthy people, and this is the way people try to buy off their health. But no, it doesn't work that way. We have to eat healthy, we have to sleep healthy. There is no supplement that is going to allow you to just buy back your health. And you're never going to come to a certain agreement with the help of this, with your homeostasis. This only comes when both parties are satisfied. There is an enormous amount of vitamins, minerals, amino acids. There is different foods like homogenized seaweed and kelp. Now, how do they work? Does it have a proven efficiency? This is a questionable issue. Where can we read up on proof? Now, we do have studies that refute this, that disprove this. But as far as proof is concerned, the amount of research out there is very lacking. Now, there are also side effects, and can you imagine that supplement side effects are very similar to pharmacological medicines and drugs? The same things as we see in pharmacological drugs can be seen in vitamins and minerals. Now, why do supplements not fall under the category of needing to list their side effects? Now, let's look at vitamin C. In vitamin C, we had Linus Collins saying that overdosing with vitamin C, with big doses of vitamin C, is going to give us certain benefits. Then in 1996, imagine how much time has passed. So how big a community this person was able to build around these ideas. In 1996, we get a certain amount of bans in the use of vitamin C supplements, like in Norway, in Finland, in Germany. In 2005, it's starting to be banned in EU in general, because there's a huge amount of side effects. We get the problems with our digestive, endocrine, nervous system, with our reproductive system, with our heart system and cardiovascular system. And this is clear. Because look, when the things that I'm sharing with you, when I came up with them, I was asking myself one very simple question, and I'd like you to ask yourself the same question. In what form, out in nature, and where in nature, can one find pure vitamin C in similar dosages as now we see in recommended supplementation in, for example, polyvitamin complexes? Now, Tell me, where can you find it? Not in a plant, not in oranges or something, but just in its pure form. Now, why I don't like to engage in pure form minerals and vitamins? Because I'm just not confident that it's going to work the way it's meant to be. I'm not sure that this is not going to harm the person taking this. Because we try to not interfere with nature. The way that nature has created a product, we try to pass it on. Once again, just applying also natural biotechnologies in order to allow the person to process the foods that he's taking in better. Now, just ask yourself, where in nature can you find pure vitamin C? In powder form or another form? Same question applies to vitamin D. Now, apart from side effects, at last, vitamin D is starting to be treated like a hormone, and just recently I had guys come in from Thailand, from Burma, and I shared this in our chats, and from Vietnam as well. And I was asking them, do you guys also have the same hysteria about vitamin D despite you guys living in sunny countries? They said, yeah. So can you imagine? Before this, vitamin D was prohibited to be prescribed during summer. Now they don't care. They prescribe it at any time. They say that vitamin D stimulates the immune system. They say that it's super important for your health. But look, my opinion is that all of this is just garbage. Because what we're doing is we're actually harming the body. Now, when we give vitamin D to people who live in a constant exposure to the sun, and now people start taking not 1,000 mU, but 10,000 mU, 20,000 mU. I've seen one time a prescription of 100,000 mU of vitamin D prescribed. And of course, this person is just an idiot. I can't say this in any way. And this person went to hemodialysis from this because his calcium just closed up the little channels in his kidneys. But the question is, where can we find pure vitamin D in nature? It's a simple question. If we all come to be as part of nature, and we are all part of natural molecules and natural cells, because right now, for example, when you have a baby, he is created out of the molecules of his mother and so on. And you, as grown-ups, each one of your molecules and each one of your atoms has been created in nature. You've either consumed it because it grew, it swam, it ran like it was out there in nature. And that's what you consume, and that's what you're made out of. And when you pass on, you're once again going to go back into the nature. All your molecules, all your atoms are going to decompose and once again be brought back into nature. So if we are born out of nature and then we go back into nature, I'm going to use the quote, from the earth we come and into the earth we shall go. Now, can you just tell us where in nature can we find these purified substances that could be good for us? Now, I'll tell you, they don't exist in nature. Why couldn't nature create, for example, a pure substance of vitamin D or vitamin C, or the next slide, pure omega-3? For example, where in nature can this be found? Nowhere, because it's clearly not the way it's meant to work. It's clearly not right to be consumed in this manner, because a pure substance opens up the doors to overdosing, which is why we have a number of various natural sources where these vitamins can be found. For example, we have the sun, which allows us to synthesize vitamin D, and it's enough for us to be covered by the sun, even just our hands and our faces, to get enough dosages of vitamin D. Now, let's look at omega-3. What is omega-3? Omega-3 is a lipid that is consisting of certain types of lipid acids. Now, so here we have DHA and EPA, the two acid base. Now, this is a fat that can be found in fish oil, but fish oil is something that is created by a fish body. In order for it to turn into omega-3 in a fish, we need the fish to eat kelp or different types of seaweed, because the kelp and the seaweed has DHA and EPA acids in their pure form. For example, instead of consuming omega-3, you can just eat kelp because it has it in pure form. Because in order for a person to be able to consume this and to process this properly, because omega-3 is a fat, it's a lipid, it's a type of a lipid acid. And so in its basic form, it's DHA and EPA. But in kelp, you have at least 5 types of fatty acids that are all part of the omega-3 family. So why would we consume fish oil when our body, in order to process this and to absorb this, needs to then deconstruct these fish oil into fatty acids to consume it, when these fatty acids exist in their native form in kelp? And so this madness that leads us to us consuming more than 1 gram. Can you imagine 1 gram per 24 hours? Now, where did this madness come from? Because this does, for example, allow us to move the balance of cholesterol in our blood. But remember that this is a spring, and once we compress it, once we conduct the analysis saying that, look, your cholesterol levels is dropping. I'm talking about basic things, so we're not talking about biochemistry in which these lipids are involved, but let's look at the cardio problem. So, for example, we compress the spring, and the best thing that the doctor tells you is to continue consuming this. Or they can say that, hey, we're done, you're healthy now, and then you will let the spring go, and your spring springs back to its original position. And believe me, you are going to get withdrawals that are going to be far worse than when you first started consuming these lipids. And this is dangerous because, once again, and this has already been proven, because scientists, when they create something that has previously been unknown, they they leech off the fact that people don't know about this. And so other scientists, the ones that are doing their PhDs and their doctorates, they collect information, they find places where information is lacking in previous researches, they conduct certain researches and say that, hey, this is, for example, bad for you. And just to give you a big example, a large-scale research was conducted that displayed that consuming over 1 gram of omega-3 per 24 hours increases the risk of atrial fibrillation. Can you imagine what that is? This is a proven fact now. Now, let us continue. So, for example, calcium leads to uncontrolled. I think one of our competitors has released a calcium supplement, and it's created out of red algae. So the things they use is called aquamine, and this is a great raw material. But I never thought about actually launching this as a separate brand in Vertera, although it seemed that it philosophically matches the things that we do for us to make supplements out of this in capsules or in tablets. And we didn't do this. Why? Because uncontrolled consumption of calcium can lead to death. Can you imagine? To death, can lead to a heart attack, can lead to a stroke, because this is wrong. I mean, how can you even do this when you have to think about the fact that you have distributors, you have consultants that are not always aware of these things, that are just going to give a person an OD of this substance because it's not only calcium, it's a bunch of other minerals, and this can lead to death. And is this okay? I think it's not. Or potassium, for example, with the digestive system, the best things we can get as side effects are diarrhea, stomach aches, detoxification, brain fog. I mean, vitamin A is just a horror, vitamin E, and this goes for the majority of supplements out there. And these are things that we need to think about. We need to think about this, guys, because what we are doing is an ethical, is an ecological, eco-friendly business. So, we're thinking about doing a nice package, trying to make it look like we've got some competitive advantages when we say that, hey, we've got a new form, we've got better clarity, we've got better concentration. We've got, I think this is a crime. If you are making money out of this, if business comes first to you, then okay, fine, it's your thing. But don't forget about karma, because this is all going to come back as a boomerang. Like our company, you will see that in the long term, we are going to come out on top. And this is not even the correct way of putting this. It's not that we are going to come out on top, because, I'm giving us too much credit, but nature is going to come out on top, because we at least are not harming anybody, because we're taking into account the laws using which the nature has created us. We're taking into account the laws using which the nature has created the products, and we must not interfere. We must not continue applying pressure to the human body. On the contrary, we have to support homeostasis, which we've been gifted with by nature, and we have to create the products that support this homeostasis. Now, this is the slide that I've been talking about. Now, have a look. In 2021, 50 billion, look what they did. Now, once again, remember that I told you that there was a different group of research that has not actually protected their PhD or doctorate on something new. They do researches on the subjects that have not yet been fully developed. So in this case, the research group states that fruits and vegetables contain enough vitamins and the necessary chemical and nutrients, that they have enough fibers and everything else. So basically, we're talking about regular food here that can work extremely well and that have a synergy effect and that have to work, because even Hippocrates has said that food is our medicines. And he wasn't a chemist, he wasn't a technologist, he wasn't a doctor. He was just a person who was capable of observation. And we can actually draw certain conclusions based on observing how a person lives, sleeps. And he drew a conclusion that you can get all the required elements from food for correcting any kind of states that you may have, be those states symptomatic of illness or anything else. And this all can come out of food, which is exactly why I agree, and which is why we produce food. And now I'm just going to translate this for you into Russian in order not to do this in English, but you can look at this article by yourself. The micro elements that are taken separately. Now, look, this is an article that shows that people are getting this finally, that the separate elements can have an unpredicted effect on the body. And this is fact, and I agree with this, because at the foundation of this business, we have the following. A person finds it easier to buy his body off, saying, okay, look, you're missing something, here you go, take this. Instead of organizing his food, instead of organizing physical exercises, instead of eating properly, sleeping well, and going to bed on time. And by the way, key thing, by sleeping in complete darkness and silence, not by just consuming melatonin, because, you know, if a person is missing a certain hormone, what he does now, he just takes, a pill of melatonin and goes to bed. Guys, this is just when you're trying to buy your body off, and you will not be able to do this. It will not work. It will not work for 100%, because these attempts to buy your body off, they give you a sensation of being in control when you're not in control, because in your body, you don't control anything. And I sincerely wish all of you who are here right now, I wish that you don't even think about the fact that you may control something, because as soon as you start thinking that you control your body, you start making mistakes, and you are going to get a punch below the stomach so hard that you won't be able to recover properly. So just make sure you get enough melatonin, which is, by the way, also a very powerful antioxidant, because it stimulates the launch of the body's recovery mechanisms. And yeah, even Dante has written about this. So I'm just saying that you can take certain supplements in the case of extreme illnesses, like, I don't know, when you get a cold or when you get a pandemic around, and we have a biochemical defense. And this biochemical defense is used when the cell is unable to be recovered genetically, biologically. When genetically it can't recover itself, it can't reproduce. When you get a problem, then the antioxidants within the body exist in order to suicide. And by that I mean a cell suicides itself. And what do we do? By consuming antioxidants constantly, we interrupt the body's natural form of work. What happens after? We get a mutation. We get the mutation of the cells that were meant to go out of order. So what we get is a buildup of autoimmune aggression. We get more and more inflammation, and all this is done by uncontrolled consumption of antioxidants. We have an amazing natural antioxidant. It's called melatonin, and for that we just need to sleep. And you know, right now behind me you see curtains. They're drawn. I'm right now not at home. I'm in Voronezh with Anatoly Fermenko. I'm being a guest in his house. But the point being, like, when we were talking yesterday, I told you, when you go to bed, make sure you close the curtain so there is no light. It's better even to perhaps make sure there is no light at all coming in. Like, not a single ray of sun or other light source. Because as soon as you go to bed in full darkness, when there is no sources of light, like, for example, if you're afraid to go to the bathroom in the night, then get a night lamp of, like, red light. Because as soon as the sun gets up and as soon as the first ray of sunlight hits your bedroom, your internal mechanism just comes to a grinding halt. And it doesn't matter how much you sleep after that, you will not be able to feel yourself fully rested. Which is why it's very simple. Just invest into good curtains and just make sure you sleep in total darkness. And for example, when we are going through a long winter or when we're going through short nights, just make sure that you create the conditions for your body to get fully rested, because then you get the homeostasis reactions that you need. then, well, this word doesn't exist, but homeostasis, I just made this word up, but homeostasis in the body is going to function properly. That's what I'm trying to say. So don't try to buy your body off. It's not going to work out. And stop even thinking about this, because it's not going to end well. Okay, now going to the next slide. Now, vitamin supplementation, just the same as with medicines. I don't have anything out for them. I'm not against it, but I'm against people taking this uncontrollably without prescription. People who don't understand what they're doing. These things have to be prescribed by a doctor. Why? This has to be done because there are certain diseases that are to do with a harsh deficit of certain vitamins, like scurvy, for example. Now, let's be honest here. Who has last seen scurvy or encountered it? Like, when has this happened last time? I mean, come on, this is just something silly in our day and age. So I don't think that vitamins are going to be prescribed to you at any case, because you need to make sure that it's proven, you need to make sure that it's prescribed, you need to get a blood analysis, blood samples need to be taken. I also think that the source of information regarding how much a person needs in terms of certain vitamins, when we're talking about like D or omega-3, the questionable nature of these sources is something to think about, because we exist in nature. We already have certain natural sources of food, and we can look at how much of what we need just by observing nature, because we as a humanity, we're just inventing how much we need of certain things, although we can just observe this by observing biology. And I've done this, and I'll share the results with you today. Now, why does a doctor need to do this? Why does a doctor need to prescribe? Because he's going to be responsible. If something happens to you, he's going to be to blame. Now, what you don't need to take. Now, from all of the experience that I have, especially the experience over the past few years when I'm engaged in science, and I'm going to continue engaging with science, I'm going to say that even during COVID, immunomodulators, polyvitamins, all these different chrome, bromine, ribose, there is a number of different vitamins that just simply don't work for 100%. Because everything that I have seen and all the results that I've witnessed, they just don't work. It just doesn't. It's just a simple marketing strategy for different companies. And once again, I'm going to say that I'm against when a business is only money driven, because I think we must make sure we don't harm people as well, because if you do harm, then you're not just harming the person, you're harming their future generations as well. If you want to test how well your supplements work, then you need to run an ergospirometry CPET test, but make sure you do it with a mask, because the things that they have in gyms is not exactly what you need. Maybe FMBA has a good machine for that. So, you run this test prior to taking it, so then you start taking what you want to take, let a month go by, and see the difference, and observe. And it is going to be the method number one for anybody wanting to do biohacking, because, people who do analysis, I've never seen how biohackers or people from vegans who would be able to actually get the proper cholesterol levels in their blood. I've just not seen it. They continuously strive to it. They change their foods, but they're just trying to essentially fight their own body, which you can't do. It's just silly. The body cannot be won, because the body is always stronger than a person trying to fight it, because the person can just use their brain, and that's it. And he thinks that the body is his, but that's not how it works. The body is there. It's made by nature. Trimethylamine and oxide. Now, that is another very good analysis that you can run, which shows you the state of your cardiovascular system. I know they do this in Moscow. I know that there are certain clinics running it, but this is not a test that is widespread, but this is something that I would recommend to users. So please write it down, trimethylamine and oxide. Just find where you can do this, and it's very informative. So it's a number one thing for biohackers. So I'm just sharing this for all the biohackers, for the mitochondrics, and this will just show you that either you're fine or you're not. Now, personalizing. This is something incredibly important. Look, personalized healthcare. Now, how does this work? Let's say you come in with a certain disease or a certain illness, and people let's say, hey, okay, let's do some blood tests. Now, what are they usually trying to run the blood tests on? They're trying to look at how your body reacts to the medication that you've been prescribed in order to treat your disease. Maybe you need a certain dosage or a different dosage, depending on what health state you're in, because if you get too much, you may have problems. So you submit a blood test and then you get a certain dosage prescribed. You may get a certain type of medicine and not prescribed others because they may be dangerous for you. And this is it for personalization of medication. Now, there are doctors here, so please do write to me if I'm wrong here. Now my question is, how are supplements personalized? When we prescribe vitamins or minerals or different supplements, do we ever look at any blood tests for their reaction to these supplements? They sometimes take into account of where the supplements come from and where the person lives. Remember the superfood thing? Yeah, we had like the goji and all the other stuff. Even 5 years ago, I used to say that this is crazy because, for example, to us, it's something unsuitable. By us, I mean people living in the middle of Russia. This doesn't work for Europeans. It doesn't work for Israelis. It's something that is just not natural to our bodies. It's the same as if we would eat just beans. For Africans, it works amazing because their digestive system processes it better, but ours one just doesn't. And this makes, people think that, hey, if something is being created in Mexico or in Latin America, something that doesn't exist somewhere in Russia, then perhaps these things are super useful, that for some reason Russia or Europe is lacking in the things that they need. Now, we also need to look at how well these components are absorbed by the body. How can we stop taking this mineral or vitamin supplements, or how can we stop taking these stimulants? What is going to happen after we stop taking the supplements? So we need to ask the same questions as we're asking the pharmaceuticals. The answers to these questions have to be provided by professional healthcare practitioners, by your doctors, and it's very important. Therefore, new trends. Okay, let's go. Paleo diet, Mediterranean diet, vegans, vegetarians, keto diets, alkaline diets, and so on and so forth. There are so many of them. Some people are trying to maintain a pH of 7.4 and being afraid of moving it 1 degree there or 1 there. Some people are doing keto diets. I know Savchenko really likes keto. Some people uphold the Mediterranean. Some people like paleo diets, the way that the cavemen ate. But look at this. This actually all does work, but we need to take into account that all this needs personalization for the person. Let's look at keto as a simple example. I also can sometimes use a keto diet, but for what? To relaunch the high or carbohydrate exchange. So, for example, I've gained weight over 3 months and I need to launch my metabolism. So I needed to once again get my carbohydrates exchange going. I mean, exercise as well, but if you don't have the time or the ability to exercise, then you can just go on a keto diet 3 weeks and your metabolism relaunches, and then you go back into your previous diet. And then you can already go ahead and do exercise. And I am more of a fan of a Mediterranean diet where we have a lot of fruits, a lot of vegetables, a lot of fish. But once again, I'm looking at the amount of calories consumed. But all this has to be individually handpicked for the person. There is no one size fits all that would be applicable to everybody. So, okay, the question then, why do we add banana? Okay, just write this question down. I'll answer this later. Now, what is good for you in Mexico does not mean it's good for you in France. Up until 2007, remember this hype around superfoods? This was an entire campaign about superfoods, many campaigns. And then in the European Union, they have actually passed legislation that have forced everybody who is selling foods with the markings of superfoods to provide proof of their efficiency, mandatorily. And once again, these are the researchers who try to catch out the previous researchers who have missed out something in their research, and that's how science continues going forward. I think you all know that I went for my postgrad studies, and I have a certain syllabus that I have to do over a period of 4 years. I have to do my master's thesis, and over this period of time, I had to understand what is a master's thesis and why am I speaking about this so freely, about the researchers that catch other researchers out. And I'm working on polyoligoimmunosaccharides. This is something that I like. This is something that has a very large raw material base that contributes and participates in a lot of exchange processes within the body of a human. Now, what do I need to do? I needed to build a plan. So I needed to take all the information that is present about the hydrolysis of polysaccharides. I needed to collect it from all over the world. I needed to sort it according to folders over the past 10 years. So over 21, 20, 19. So let's say up until 2012. So I take all the materials that have been researched. I take all that materials, which I really like, in fucose, and fucose and its components for its withdrawal. This is something that I'm going to touch on also briefly. This component is also partially synthesized in our body, and we also needed to get it out of algae, out of grapes, out of certain seeds, because we don't have enough enzymes to properly get it. And our product is really good for this because it allows us to process this, because we are able to get a full benefit out of this. Now, if we take all this research, run an overview about it, and in this research, we need to find the things that people have not described, meaning that I have to find places where there is not enough research, and then say that, hey, you guys did not do this here, you missed this out. This is how a master's thesis is done in Russian and then a PhD thesis, but it's a different story there. But you understand, so I'm looking at the brain, and when I was defending my master's thesis, and I had pioneers, people 23, 24-year-old, they also were defending their master's thesis, and it's very easy to see the people who are actually working according to what they have studied and those who don't. Because, it's interesting, people learn in the following way. So let's say a person has completed the school for chemistry, then they did bachelor's for organic chemistry, then they went to do their master's in biochemistry, then they finished their master's, and then they go into postgrad studies. They're all basing their studies on things that already exist. And me, when I was applying for these programs when I was 40, I had to go through the entire school chemistry syllabus again. And, all of you have access to internet and to YouTube, so all of you can do this. There is an amazing place online where you can find lectures on school chemistry and organic chemistry. And, later when you read all these materials, it's just very easy to understand this. Because, when I started to study this, especially actively, I had to slow down occasionally because there are certain terms that I don't understand. But to me now, after a number of years, it's just very easy because now all these terms are familiar. And because my brain is not filled with garbage, you understand, by reading the various articles and materials from way, way, way back when, I'm really good at critically absorbing this information because, the majority of things I see as a result of criticism. And what I see is wrong. When I see something wrong, I just can't stay silent about this because I do sell my product, but I've not invented it. It has not been obtained magically. It just so happened that, thanks God, I was able to find this product. And I'm also thankful that I was granted the understanding of how this product works, because before I did not fully understand how everything works. So we need to understand that we need personalization, because depending on the region where a person lives and depending on our genes, like we have different types of food that is absorbed. In Mexico, it's one food. In Russia, it's different food. So we are more inclined towards eating the things that have been eaten by our ancestors, because the question is, what does that food have and how are those things absorbed by our bodies? And now I'm coming back to one of the two values that I've mentioned before. So a person is always striving for freedom. All the political movements are based on this strive, and a person is always moving towards harmony. So that's where all spiritual and religious practices are based on. So the elements that are present in the human body, the mechanisms that are present in the human body, is called homeostasis. And it is precisely this balance that is given to you. You don't even need to think about this because it's present externally. It's present outside of your control zone. You are not in the control of this mechanism and this system of self-regulation, this system of continuity, of continuous movement, because it's all balanced. You have the breathing, you have the level of the pH in the body, the level of oxygen in the blood, the level of CO2 in the blood, the level of a variety of elements that are present in the plasma of your blood that are constantly being regulated. And these things, they stay at a constant and they don't change because we have in our blood and our plasma is what we need to maintain homeostasis. Now, let's imagine if we have a certain constant level of elements in the human plasma, and then if we start adding vitamins to it or something else, what do we do essentially? By that, we're starting to challenge homeostasis. We're starting to say, hey, homeostasis, we think you'll do better. And homeostasis can not take lightly to that, because homeostasis is trying to maintain a continuous, constant state of human plasma, and then it's just getting some additives. What are we going to get? We're going to get side effects. We're going to get side effects. The body is going to try to make us stop doing what we started doing, because our body has all the mechanisms for maintaining a healthy lifestyle. We have self-adaptation, self-healing, and nature has given us everything for this. We have been granted air, we have been granted water, we have been granted food, we have been granted darkness. All these elements are given to us by nature. And I think, windows are human invention that, it's like visualization. Yeah, it's an invention, They make beautiful food right now. There was time when we all lived in a cave. Everybody came into a cave, it's dark, everybody sleeps, they go out, the sun comes back up, it's light again. So if we look at it this way, nature has given us everything, and homeostasis is your guardian, and we need to respect this guardian. We need to listen to him. We need to try and keep it. We need to maintain its reserves. So once again, I'm telling you, if you run out of reserves, you're going to run out of health. If you're going to stimulate, if you're going to try and fight your homeostasis, your health is going to run out, and I can guarantee you that. You can collect a huge amount of side effects. You can write an entire book on side effects, because I have an enormous amount of people who have come from other companies with health that has been just left in tatters. On the very first meeting, speaking with them, I asked them, hey guys, are you even okay? Because you have homeostasis, why don't you just go ahead and start drinking acid or something? Yeah, you're going to get horrible things happening inside your body. It's a similar effect that you're going to get when you continue uncontrollably taking in vitamins and continue depriving yourself of sleep, but you don't do it because you don't notice it. You eat something and you don't realize, we don't always realize how alcohol works. 1 shot, 2 shots, 5 shots, went to bed, drank some water. But how many things have been destroyed inside, it's just difficult. It's the cardiovascular system does not seem scary because there are no symptoms, we can either think, hey, what's happening? We can get a sharp pain, lack of conscience, we fall unconscious and we die. So it's a very short symptomatic route. If you don't think about this, you are an egoist, because you don't think about your children, your partners, your business, because keep in mind that you are responsible for this as the consultants, as leaders, as owners. And we have been given everything we need by nature, from nature. We have even been given the feeling of freedom. We have been given this strive towards freedom. We have this in our bodies, we have this in our minds, we have this in our souls, and the bodies work. And all we need to do is just observe. Observe and say, yes, this is the way that nature works. Because, our scientists, they create antibiotics, yeah? So let's just, first thing that comes to mind, we have antibiotics that are created from things that we take out of the soil. So all the antibiotics that have been created, they're all taken out of the soil. And then they take certain molecules, they do some certain synthetic antibiotics, but they synthesize this out of things that they take out of soil. So we have been granted observation by nature, and Hippocrates said that food is medicine, and he has understood this from observation, not because he was a scientist or a doctor. And once again, this is a very broad stroke picture of how homeostasis works. Homeostasis works in our nervous system, immune system, in the microbiome, in the endocrine system. When a person is conceived, there are many arguments on when the soul enters the body and so on, but from the very beginning, we see the development of the cells of the endocrine system. First, we have the hypothalamus develop, and only then we see everything else develop. So originally, the person is starting to develop the regulatory systems inside his body. So those systems develop first. Why don't we see the nervous system or the immune system or the cardiovascular system develop first? No. First, we have the regulatory system develop, and then everything else. This is something that we can also think about, because we have been given this. And Hippocrates, who I mentioned today already, he's once again an observer. And all the philosophers who we like reading so much, they're just people who were able to observe. Even the musical composers, people like Mozart, who were unable to do some things, but who were able to hear. But when you're able to hear, you're able to listen, you're able to observe sound, because sound are things that we also perceive. We perceive them with hearing. Even if we don't hear it, these melodies, they can play out in our minds. So observation is things that we have been given. We have the power to observe. Many of the spiritual teachings and modalities base themselves on observations. So HomeoFoods are the future, and that is my term, and I'm going to stick to it. And yes, I said I came up with the term HomeoFoods. I understand that it consists of two words, of the words homeostasis and food. So HomeoFoods. So we just call them HomeoFoods now. And our product is food for supporting body's homeostasis, for your ability to come to terms with your internal homeostasis, because there is no point applying pressure to homeostasis. There is no point in ignoring homeostasis. This has been also something that I've said, because trust me, you are going to get a blowback like you won't believe if you try to fight it, or if you try to suppress it or stimulate it. So that what we have as a product for the support of homeostasis is something that I've only realized a few years ago. And I have a slide which says that it took me 15 years to understand this. 15 years needed to pass in order for me to get why the products work so multifunctionally. And I think that all the partners know that we have a lot of clinical researches for our products, and our researches always go well, because any analysis we do is a certain snapshot of our state, and we always get good results with our foods. And when I was starting to do this way back when, and I was telling the doctors about these results. I was going to them, showing them this, and then back then I couldn't find the right words. But I felt a bit shunned, because I thought, hey, this does work. We did do the research. We do have the things that actually work. I couldn't explain this properly, but all the doctors would say, yeah, you found the philosopher's stone, ha ha ha. And this was a very strong counter argument that back then used to get to me, and that made me question, what am I doing actually right? But the answer is simple. It's just a product that supports homeostasis, because homeostasis is way smarter than you, smarter than your doctor, smarter than your various detection systems, because homeostasis knows what went wrong, knows how to fix the things that went wrong, knows what you need to get and what you need to reimburse and recover, which is why you need to eat, you need to drink, and you need to sleep. You need to get things that you need genetically, because when I mentioned human plasma, you have a certain constant balance of minerals, a constant balance of various elements inside plasma, and homeostasis maintains this balance, because that's what the exchange of components inside our plasma is built on. We have a certain program code, and many people don't know this, because medics don't even know the genetic code, not even talking about the internal programming of a human that is originally laid out in nature in terms of what particular substances and elements need to be present in a human body in order for the human's homeostasis to be upheld at a decent level, for the person to be in a good and healthy state. Well, we have gene work, when a person starts to age, that thing is something we understand a little more. A person is born, lives, grows older, and then starts dying away. But a person needs to live all his 120 years, because I'm pretty sure that our genes allow us to continually live fully functioning for 120 years without significant issues. So we need to get these minerals. And where is this code written out? Remember, this is my question. Where do we have these pure minerals in nature? How can we look at this? How can we get this? Now, once again, it's really good when your mind is free from all the weird programs. You can ask these big questions. If we have human plasma present, then you can look at what is it that plasma has that you need. Now, how can we find these elements in nature? Everything is very simple. Algae and kelp has it all. So just entrust your body to the HomeoFoods from Vertera. But just read about this, research this, try and disprove this. If you can, try to disprove the things that I'm saying today. And if you do, I will be actually happy that you were able to research and to actually disprove the work that I'm doing. Algae. Vertera. Well, now I can fully understand what this is. Imagine, 8 years have passed. 8 years in September going to be. So the manufacturing is going to be all 18 years now. And only now I can say that Vertera are algae foods to support human homeostasis, meaning that this is precisely what we need this for. Now, let us talk a bit about algae and seaweed in general. I'm pretty sure that all of you know that algae and seaweed live in seas, as the name says. We procure and farm our own raw materials in ecologically clean areas of the White Sea in the north of Russia, 150 kilometers away from the polar circle. It is a very clean area. We sometimes make tour guides there, and some people have been there from you who are in the chat right now. If you want, you can now say in the chat if you've been there, where we procure the algae. And it's amazing, it's clean, it's very beautiful. And of course, I'd highly recommend you to go there if you have the chance. Now, the secret of algae, it is a living biochemistry lab of the sea. What is the sea? The sea is the essence of what land mass has, because on land you have all the chemical, biochemical transformation reactions of both organic and non-organic materials take place. You have leaves falling, you have them decompose, you have animals die, animals decompose, all this goes into the earth, all this falls into separate atoms, into separate molecules, it rains, all this goes down into rivers and into the seas, and so here you find the fully diversified biochemical composition of our bodies. Along rivers, these elements find their ways into the sea, which is why we feel like we want to go towards the sea, towards the shores. It is very close to our nature. Even the saline solutions that are being used are very close in their components to our blood, and they do a lot of research to try and find components in algae that could be used with human blood. So the sea is a living biolab, because unlike normal land plants, it's got a far richer biochemical composition, because the plants, they use their roots to pull in everything that is present in the soil, and depending on the quality of the soil, depending on what there is in that soil, like, you know, there is this saying that you have good earth, you have good earth, which is rich in nutrients, which is why some places have better growth and better foods than others, and it has been valued since the ancient times when there were wars fought over these rich soils. And we know this in Russia, in the south of Russia, in Ukraine. But regardless, there are still roots that use this. But algae don't have these roots. For them, roots is just a way of being fixed onto a single place. And the algae, it sucks in and it processes the entire composition of everything that is found on Earth. Of course, no land-born plant is able to do the same. It's just not designed in the same way. And the huge amount of elements found in algae, not only in brown or red algae, but in other algae as well, it gives us the answer to the question, why was life started in the sea at all? And we found like over 140 good components. And you know, before this, I was in the dark. I never understood why do we always have clinical successes in our researches? Why do our results are consistent? We had different researches, and sometimes to me it seemed a little unethical when we looked at, for example, oncology or some other diseases. And I've seen people in all the countries where I've been do this. And you know, when people are asking me to send the results, I continue thinking that they'll be amazed, and then eventually I was able to get it. when I was studying and researching this, I was able to finally find the answers. You see, when you want to get the access to the knowledge, you need to go through the scientific base before you're able to uncover the knowledge. And for me, I studied chemistry, biochemistry, organic chemistry, and then bio-nanochemistry and bio-nanotechnologies, and so on and so forth. But at a certain point in time, all this clicked together, and I just understood. I was like, oh, I was so foolish before. How was I unable to understand this before? How could I understand what exactly is the range of elements that there? And the experience that I went through showed me this, and I'm going to show this in the next slide. So what did I do? Now, if I understood that there are no pure elements in nature, we don't have these vitamins or something else, I understood that we need to find a certain genetical set of instructions or the code of the program regarding what that needs to be present in the human plasma in order for the homeostasis of the human to be healthy. What did I do? I took my own blood, I ran it through a lab, I looked at the plasma of a human, and I looked at the entire range of elements. And I'm not the only person who did this. There is a number of researchers that are currently looking into the content of the plasma of human blood. Then I looked at it and I thought, okay, so this is the content of my blood. And I kept asking myself, why do these gels, algae-based gels, work? I did the same thing. I took BioProMax, I also ran it through the tests, I removed all the pigments, and I did the same analysis as I did in my plasma of my blood. And I figured out that the components, the elements inside it are identical. They're the same. And after this, of course, I was just in a state of exaltation. I was like, now I get it. Now this is why, because everything that we need is present here. And I thought, okay, wait, let's look at how much is in there, because, we need dosages, we need particular grams and particular dosages. And what I did was I ran by them in comparison. So I looked at how much in percent of elements are present in algae and in human plasma. It was almost 100% identical, with salts especially. Now, what else is needed? This is all we need. And additional functions like polysaccharides, which can also be hydrolyzed. And what is hydrolysis? Hydrolysis is when you have certain fermentations. They can be combinant, they can be natural. They cut up, for example, fucoidan. Now, fucoidan is consisting of fucose and of another element. If we remove fucose out of this equation and it becomes a monosaccharide, then you can't even imagine what role can fucose play in the development of the body as a whole, especially in a children's body. When we see non-specific immunity form, when our T cells are starting to learn, when there is a study process, when the T cells and white blood cells learn to combat certain pathogens in the body, fucose needs to be synthesized, and it must is the key word here. So we either have to consume it or to synthesize it. And partially we can get it from a variety of seeds. We can get it from grapes, but in grapes it's not really well absorbed, and it's also found in algae. But can you imagine if we give this to children? And moreover, if you eat food like a number of types of kelp or a number of types of grapes, then you need certain fermentation for it to be correctly absorbed. And what we do is we give children vaccination straight away, and by that we reduce fermentation that takes place in a children's body. And this is not good, because everybody knows the benefits of vaccinations, because what we get is an added immunity. But at the same time, we reduce and we limit the fermentative processes in the bodies. And then we get allergies and everything else, because our bodies are no longer able to properly process what it's meant to process. And so these allergies are like an add-on baggage we get to the vaccines, because vaccines do have their effect. I'm not saying they're all bad. And, fucose is needed to absorb this. And where can you buy this? You can't, because you can't buy this in a pharmacy. You can't buy this as a separate element. It's just not there. So what we did, we additionally added elements that allowed us to separate fucose out. And the ProMax product that we're going to release soon, it's going to work with polycomponent ferments with the complex in order to try and dissect the cellulose, to try to reduce laminaran, because laminaran and fukaran are different because we have fucose and and other polysaccharides that are present, algae acids, and the things that we're going to show in Seliger in August. There, we're going to have an additional fermentation process take place through fuconaidan, which is going to allow us to remove fucose. And fucose is an amazing prebiotic to feed the lactobacteria and bifidobacteria. So to say the truth, I'm just elated. I'm happy because this is incredible what we're able to do with this. Because just when we work with fuconaidan, what we get is an amazing immunomodulator. Because we're not stimulating anything here. We're just allowing the body access to the tools, to the components that our own body then later can use it to build up the correct immune response. And this will allow women to be more fertile because, sometimes it's hard for women and for men to conceive babies because for example, if a woman does not have enough fucose, then the sperm cannot attach to the egg cell because the egg cell is covered with oocytes. And at the end of sperm cells, we have a special fucosidane as an element which allows us to dissect this fucose, and then it allows it to attach to the egg cell. If, once again, I'm going to repeat, if in terms of components we don't have enough fucose, then it's going to be very hard for you to become pregnant. It's not going to be possible. And the reason for this, and this is not talked about, I don't know the reason. I don't know why they don't talk about it. Let's look after the plasma goes to market, and I ask you, as our partners, to support me. Those who want to conceive a baby, those who want to become pregnant, to the women, we give them fucose for it to become a part of the exchange. We help them with the endocrine system functionality, and all this becomes very clear and very functional. So this is just amazing. And now, the elements that are part of the algae are also part in the human plasma. Once again, the salts are identical, and our body always feels the need for the elements that are originally programmed within our bodies. Once again, our plasma is our internal programming code. It's something that we can see, and kelp has all of this, which is why it works, which is why none of you can forecast the effect that we're going to get out of this product, because the body itself is going to decide where and when it needs to correct and to fix something that it needs fixing. If you want, for example, your hand to stop hurting, maybe your foot will stop hurting first. You need to learn to trust your body, because your body is going to use homeostasis to make sure everything works properly. No need to put brain into the entire function, and Galaplasma is the only product from algae that is fully able to be consumed by our body and absorbed by our body. And I'm very happy that we have this. Unlike people who just try to copy this, who try to find this magical good, maybe on the level of the mind it could be enough. But once again, because I'm not engaged with this, I have an amazing manufacturing facility, I have an amazing company, and many of you who have been here, our manufacturing facility can copy any good. Our manufacturing facility can copy anything that is being manufactured in other companies. This can be done really quickly, and this works really well. So the company is very simple. If we wanted to, we could. We could copy almost everything. Natalia Ivanovna, hello, I see you in the chat there. So everything is very simple. Sorry, I was interrupted a little. Okay. Coming back, the sea is the cradle of humankind, and plasma and algae is here that we see. So galloplasm, and human blood plasma is very similar. So after the analysis showed us that the human body blood plasma and galloplasm and algae have an identical elements, it shows us that algae has everything that nature has designed in order to support homeostasis in humans. And Kipling has this amazing quote, and I love our marketing department, when he said, "We are of the same blood, you and I." So this quote from Mr. Kipling, I don't know if you remember the movie Jungle Book or Book of the Jungle. Nobody is going to take care of your body better than your body itself. It is just physically not possible because, people just try to treat the symptoms. They try to remove the symptoms, and what happens after that doesn't matter because the removal of the symptoms is considered to be the result. And this result is what people are pushing when they're selling supplements, when they're selling you medicines, because they are just taking a temporary snapshot of your body in time. So if you, for example, go to a lab, you check up your to just check up your body. You, after a checkup, get a number of supplements as recommendations. Why do women, for example, get prescribed lecithin? They're just giving us out and out and out and out more and more and more of these supplements. But the question is why? Why do we need this? Why do they do this? Because has the doctor highlighted a deficit that your body has? Because, people have a certain reference number, right? When you, for example, a coach, or when you are a doctor or a business coach or a scientist, you have what is called a reference power, because you are the person who others are going to refer to because they perceive you as an authority. So this does not always work. Keep in mind, I urge all of you to double check everything that you hear. If something has been found out by one doctor, go ahead and run this diagnosis by 2 or 3 people. And I did this myself. You need to make sure that what you're being told is indeed the truth. This is as far as diagnosis is concerned. But in terms of health, your own body has everything in order to fix it, because you have been given all of this by nature. And right now, we have this company called Vertera, and we have this me who has this insight, who at last understood what it is that we have in our hands. So this is not a hype product. This is not something miraculous. But yes, we are going to take time to build this out, but we are going to basically steamroll everybody who's in our way. Okay. It seems like we're getting the same technical issues as last time. It seems that the internet can't handle our energy. But trust us, we are going to slowly and steadily steamroll everybody in our way and steamroll our competition, because people are going to get this eventually, that we need to be very critical in our perception of authorities, because there is a number of doctors, researchers, nutritionists, but we need to double check everything we get. And I would say base your decisions out of your internal intuition, because intuition is an internal language that allows you to communicate with both yourself, your body, your homeostasis, and your brain. That's how it works. So slowly but steadily, it is going to penetrate the public mind, because the more harm that is done, the more people question this. And the more we continue going forward, the more research we will have, because, people are coming to us and we continue to grow. In our business, we don't just sell our goods through pharmacies or through retail markets. Like right now, I'm talking to you for an hour and 15 minutes just about a product. Yesterday I was asked the question. I was doing a meeting with one of potential partners here in Voronezh, who is really interested in this. But he's asking us, why don't we put this product into the pharmacies? So look, I am taking half an hour to tell you about this product. So, I'm telling you about what is this. Even now, I'm talking about this for an hour and 15 minutes in order for you to gain an understanding of what is it that you are holding in your hands. How can you imagine for the product to just tell the same story about itself while it's just standing on a shelf in a pharmacy or in a retail market? Now, we need to understand, we're doing this business not just because of money, because be that a big retail chain or a pharmacy, it's still the same money. But here it goes to the people, and there it will just go to the company who owns the store or who runs the store. So our main task is to make sure people understand, because we do have karma and we do have a mission that consists of us wanting for at least 0.1% of people in the world. If even 0.1% of people will understand what exactly I'm saying, we will be able to create an enormous community of people. Like, if they want, they can consume our product. If they want, they don't. It's their choice, but they will have a critical perception of what is it that is being poured into their brain from Facebook, from Instagram, from social media. They'll be critical regarding what they're being told about their health, because there is a huge amount of people who just do not understand what they're talking about. People don't understand the foundations of cellular biology, of biochemistry. It's just horrible. People continue recommending diets to everybody here, left, right, and center, without an understanding of what effect this will have on the body. So what I'm saying, let other companies prepare the foundation for us, and we're just going to slowly and steadily steamroll across this market. We're going to be like a snow shoveling machine where we just collect everything. Because you can't change the way this works. Human homeostasis is not going to disappear, is not going to change. So the needs of people are not going to change, which means that we are going to have an enormous amount of people that are going to want to become our consumers, because people are going to get this, and we are going to reach a point where there is going to be an enormous amount of people who are going to be recommending this to one another, and it's just going to become unstoppable. It's going to be an explosion, and you're going to be here to witness it. So the foundation of our Vertera products is geoplasm. And I think that you will know it. We have gel made from kelp. And why do we use gel? Gel is a structural colloidal system that allows us to dissipate the product. So it's an internal environment that has a lot of various elements. And some of these elements are holding water, some of these holding useful nutrients, but it's the best for absorption. Now, what are algae HomeoFoods from Vertera? Now, for me, the basic story, the foundation, the central part is Pro Max. I, for example, don't eat anything else. I don't take Smart Start. I don't eat Smart Kids. I don't eat the juices, the Forte. What I consume is just Pro Max. That's my foundational product. I came to Artem Sergeyevich and to Anna because we're going to film a video of what is it that I eat in the morning. So now we're going to make a nice video and publish it in the video, how the cocktail that I drink every morning looks like. It's very simple. It's all a bunch of greens that are all mixed in a blender. Then we get 50 grams of Pro Max on board. We get 50 grams of Focus. And I do this in the morning, and then later I can, for example, take something else for breakfast. All the other type of products are just additives for taste. There are different types, for example, for children, for adults eating this, in order to just show people that this product can also be tasty. But if we get a little engaged, and if we understand that we can get any type of taste we want, then we can just use Pro Max. But Pro Max is going to go away from our product line after we launch the sales of the products that is going to be packed into 100-gram containers. Then there is not going to be a point in Pro Max because we're going to have it sorted in 100-gram containers. You just open it up, you get it into the blender. You will not need a freezer, you will not need a fridge. All the gel products, of course, are going to remain. And yesterday I was also being asked a very interesting question to people who are grown. What is better, Pro Max or Vertera gel? You know, I think that Vertera gel is the better option, because there we have anhydrolyzed elements of polysaccharides, where we have fucoidan, mannite, and other very important elements which are more useful for the digestive system. So Vertera gel is an ideal match. Their Pro Max is just maybe unnecessary, or it can just be used as an additional component. Or it's the use of these constant smoothies where you mix up kelp in Pro Max foods and Pro Max, you just mix it up in a blender and then eat it all up. But this is just the basics. This is how you can build from this. So this is the slide about me being 15 years in the dark about this, thinking that, hey, we did so many things, our product works so well, and so on and so forth. And here was the answer. The only thing we needed to do is, like, like, I'm going to go to the moon and back for you, just as long as you get a ladder. And I built this ladder for myself based on science and chemistry, on biology, to get to this information, for me to be able to understand what is it that we have in our hands. And I want you to also understand what is it that we have in our hands. Because once again, the slide I was talking about, even you try and address some doctors, go to a number of various hospitals. Of course, like, they're going to look at you and say, what, you're bringing us a panacea, you're bringing us medicine against all ailments? This is not going to work. They're skeptical. And I'm continually questioning, why do we have this research results? Why is everything working out so well? It's because we don't heal. We don't try to cure somebody. We're not saying that our product is going to cure you from this or heal you from this. No. All we say is that if you take a product we will be able to then witness how homeostasis is going to react to the components that are already inside you. We understand that the elements that are inside your plasma are in a constant state. They can't continuously change their dosages or percentages because they are the things that run in our body all the time. And the contents of our product is identical or very close to what we have in our plasma. So this helps our homeostasis. And I'm saying, let's observe. Let's observe what is going to happen. We're not promising everybody super effects. We're not going to say that, wow, you're going to become healthy in a second after taking our good. People are very wrong about supplements. People are very wrong about, like people are saying, hey, take a huge amount of collagen is going to help you. But the things that you need for collagen to be absorbed properly, people have added vitamin C into the mix and they just build everything around this. You have vitamin C, vitamin D, vitamin E. It's all just nonsense. Like, hear what I'm trying to say. You don't have the need for this much collagen or vitamin C or vitamin D or vitamin other like omegas and stuff. You have a constant level of these elements in your blood, and this constant metric can't be moved, just the same as your blood does not change its chemical composition, because if it does, you will die. You have a certain level of CO2. You have, like, people are thinking, how can you lower the pH level of your blood? It's just, whoa, just give your body some acid. I don't know, go for a run. Or how can we naturally make our, when we have thrombosis, because we have a good product called clinics, and for some reason, like, it's called the product, but in part it's correct because it's also building material for your body. But how can we do for the thrombones to not catch onto internal blood vessels? You need to at least walk. You need to have some physical exercises. I mean, it's a very simple recipe. The quicker your blood is pumping, the lower the chances of certain lipids inside your body or other elements to attach within your blood vessels. It's simple, right? All you need to do is walk. But we don't want to walk. We don't want to apply effort. Yeah? We want to just buy a pill for the body to feel good. We will take an aspirin tablet to improve the blood viscosity. We are going to take something else to try and feel better immediately. And that is exactly what the pharmaceutical market and the supplement market are built on. If you don't think about this, if you don't want to understand what exactly is happening, then perhaps you are the people who others will make money on. Then you are the victim in the end, and you are the only one who's responsible at the end. But the geoplasm of algae is the best superfood, and is going to continue growing and growing. People are going to become more and more aware, and we do publish researches, and I talk about this constantly. We have articles coming out in the Komsomolskaya Pravda, famous journal. We have articles in Wikipedia being published right now, because we're trying to make sure that it's out there, and people steal our stuff. And if you can look, other companies, they don't have any creative spark in them. So the interesting part here is that this product is very personalized. This is yet another quality that is very important to highlight here, because it supports the human homeostasis. It's not only supporting homeostasis, but it's also incapable of harming a person. This product is hypoallergic, and you're not going to have an allergy to it regardless of whether you live in Africa, in Mexico. And it's also suitable to all the different ideologies. It's both halal and kosher and vegan, because it works, which is why with Vertera HomeoFoods, your body will be capable of retaining health. And now for the doctors, I'm just going to stoop down to the level of microelements, where we'll be able to look at the proof of the elements that are being used and how they work. You can read about Leminaran, you can read about fucoidan. There was a huge research about its effect on COVID-19 as well. So, it's not the fucoidan that's actually doing the work. It's the dissection and the absorption of fucose that's doing the work. And the fucoidan also helps a lot with oncology. All the links are down there below. You can look at this. And the work with the stem cells, and that alginates are things that have vital elements inside us. And if you look at the components of the phyto mixes that are present, they all have sublimated algae, but in the next we're going to have it in the colloidal form and gel form, because all this is just forms of transport of the molecules and the substances that are the base of these foods. Now, here you see on the slide, it says that it's the carrier of the vital elements for the body. For example, Konstantin is asking, why do we also lose weight? Well, we have a fucoxanthin, which helps us to lose weight, because fucoxanthin helps us to burn away the white fats. It really stimulates the thermogenesis. It works very well with diabetes. It works very well with diabetes type 2. And once again, we have an enormous amount of results that we see when under doctor supervision. We see, it's for people to just not go crazy, because, they stop taking supplements and they just switch to Vertera right away. You need to slowly take yourself off supplements, because the main purpose of our products is to make people not need the medicine, not need the supplements, slowly. And of course, if you're sick, go through the treatment that your healthcare professional has prescribed to you. And, you need to understand what AngioLife is doing as a product. It's not only solving your problems with blood clotting or thrombosis. You're going to still go through the treatment that your doctor has prescribed to you, but your condition is going to gradually improve. And so our products are designed for you to gradually no longer need this therapy, and for you later to be able to fully recover. That is the purpose of our product. Now look at Fucose. You can read up on this. Just don't be lazy about this. Here I'm just giving you a brief overview. Fucose is what allows you to have the ontogenesis processes running, so the development of the human body. Now, cellular differentiation, because cellular differentiation is something that's super important for our body, because from the beginning we have cells that are not part of the livers or something else, and then when differentiation takes place is when a cell becomes a cell of a particular body, and this is very easily visible. There is a lot of research is done about this, about the cells of the immune system, and in the immune system, Fucose is involved there. So when our immune system is formed, not the particular immunity that we may have, because we have the general immunity and specific immunity when we, for example, get sick, and then the immunity arises as a result of our body learning to combat a certain illness. So now I'm going to use some scary words, and I'm going to say that a disruption in the synthesis of fucolized glycans leads to chronic immunodeficit and an underdevelopment of the thymus gland. Now, what are glycans? Glycans is a monosaccharide. Like you have monosaccharides like glucose, mono, meaning is singular, not two, not three, not like sugar, but like saccharide, monosaccharide. Sugar is not the best word for it, because a sugar is not a saccharide, because you have a monosaccharide, which is just, there are 4 monosaccharides, right? And glycans, fucolized glycans, are monosaccharides with simple connection. They're really good at hydrolysis, so they're really good at being dissected, meaning that if you have a difficulty in synthesizing these glycans, these saccharides, then you get a chronic immunodeficit. And what you get is another development in the tissue of the thymus gland. Now, please, those of you who are a little older, did you ever, in your age and in your time, did you have a case of kids being ill often? And now those parents here who are younger, the dads and the moms, now how often do your kids get sick? And this is precisely an issue with the development of the thymus gland. Because I personally think that this is one of the organs in the body that can hinder aging, because this organ dissipates by 30, and it helps us set up our aggressive immunity, the constructive immunity that allows the thymus gland to work. Because the thymus gland is a gland, just like all the other glands for the immunity system. They are sort of universities for the simpler tissues and the simpler cells of the immune system, during which they learn or during which they differentiate. So they become either T cells, O cells, B cells of our immune system, and so on. And they study in a variety of different universities, glands. And thymus dissipates by 30. If it would not have dissolved and dissipated by 30, I think that this would allow us to continue to live longer than what we do right now. And kids who get sick often usually have this problem with a disrupted function of thymus. Now, fucose molecules are very important in the reproductive process. Once again, we have an entire scientific article about this from 2006 that the remnants of fucose, when they're concentrated on the surface of the egg cell, they provide adhesion, so the connection of the sperm cell to the egg cell. And you can read about this article by yourself about what it causes and what are the effects. Just look at this. It gets connected and everything is amazing. And girls, you will be full, you'll be able to conceive, and families will be happy. Now, let's go to the technologies. Now, I'm just going to go to the technologies now. Now, we can consume what sort of things? What sort of things can we consume? 1 second. Dear esteemed, I'm pretty sure we have people from marketing here. But here, apart from salads, apart from powders, on this slide, we also need homogenized algae. Now, I'm going to answer this question as well, because we can see, for example, pills, we can see algae in pills and powders and salads and certain salted things, and now we also have homogenized algae. Now, let me just address what that is. Homogenized is just algae that's been run through a blender, and I can homogenize kelp even at home. You know, I just leave them in water or just take it fresh, cut it up, throw it into a blender, and what I'm going to get is a smoothie. So homogenized algae is just algae that has run, that has been run through a blender. You know, people don't even read what is written there, because homogenized algae is what tears up the cells. So it's clear that the manufacturers who produce this, they probably can't use the same technologies as we do, because what we use are patented technologies, because we use fermented hydrolysis and it's patented, and our products are going to be a league ahead, because homogenizing, you know, it's just a fancy word for blender. So here I would like the marketing people to add the homogenized algae to the slide so that we can show them later. So the point is that neither in a blender nor in a homogenizer nor in the fresh or dried or powder form, you're never going to be able to fully absorb the elements that are inside it. Never. And by the way, this applies not only to algae, but to any plants, to salads and so on, and other plant-based components, because we do not have the ferments that are able to destroy these polysaccharides that are these plant fibers. So for example, look at this beautiful horse. Now, it's got the necessary ferments inside its digestive system, and then it can eat the grass and it can get muscles out of it. And you see these big muscular horses, you know, when they race out, you know, they're just super beautiful animals, but they don't eat meat, right? In order to gain this weight and to gain this muscle fibers. No, they just do physical exercise and eat plants, eat grass, because the external shell of algae cannot be digested, because we don't have things that are able to digest together, the pectin of the outer shell and the cellulose of the inner shell. And so in Promax, what we did is we fermented the product that is essentially the gel. So the Vertera gel has been fermented in order to make it as absorbable by our bodies as possible, and to free up the elements that are currently tied by with pectin, with the fibrillose, with the tissue. And so what we get is a much richer element base than homogenized or other forms, because unlike horses, cows, and so on, our digestive systems are not designed for this, so it's useless. So don't let them fool you, because these forms are not digestible by us. But you know, the function of these products are hard to overestimate. For example, we have an issue with, for example, problems with the digestive system, because tissue is really good at helping with stool, and our gel products are greatly absorbed. So that's just briefly the description of the technology. And so other people will not be able to do the same thing as we do. You know, even if they try to copy this, they will not be able to write about this, because as soon as they write about this, we're just waiting to file a lawsuit against them. So even if they do, they'll not be able to talk about it. Now, about the business that we are working, there are a huge amount of companies that sell supplements out in the market. Just look at the future. Look at what is going to happen. Some of them will be successful. Some of them are successful. Many of these companies are a reason for awe. I know the presidents. I know their marketing. They're amazing. I respect them immensely, but their products are just baseless. And so, in the place of competition, when the people are trying to copy one another, when people are trying to get new vitamins, new boxes, new humans, and new humans, with different parts of pines, and they copy one another. But what for? Because this competition, and competition always leads to death at the end. I mean, let's just look how they fight one another, how they leave the people who are wounded behind them, who we're later going to treat. Let them do what they're doing, let them do their thing. So no need to stress about this, no need to pay much attention to this. It's going to go away with time. So being in a company where the supplements and the pills can be easily reproduced by their competitors, what's the point? I mean, there's no future there. If you want to lose what you build out over years, then sure, it's your choice. But I would want to be working in a company that does not have competition, because your product is unique. People can't copy this because the clientele, the wide circles of people, they're going to come. They're going to come to us, and they're going to be loyal because there is just no analogs for what we're offering. Which is why on the broader market, well, if you want to go out into the broader market, sure, you can. It's your choice, but there's no future there, because on my manufacturing facility, I can produce and manufacture any of these supplements because I am running the plant. I have it there. But for me, for my own brand, no, I would not do this for my own brand, because this is just silly and it's just wrong. I don't want to be yet another small company that has no future, even if there is a temporary financial success. In Russia, it's interesting. I've noticed a little thing here. The companies that are present in Russia, the big companies, the ones that have a lot of distributors, that have a large turnover, for some reason they're present only in Russia and not in other countries. And you know why? Because they don't have any competitive products. They just copy other people. They parody them. But our story is working vice versa, because we have markets outside of Russia, and we are currently slowly growing Russia, but growing inside Russia as well. But I want to tell you that success can be found with a unique product, which cannot be repeated. Yes, it is going to be a little slower in terms of growth, but it's going to be stable. And I hope that you will be able to correctly understand this, and for you to be good at this. And slowly ending this webinar, I want to leave you with one thought: listen to your body. Our product is safe, it's a food, and the results of the consumption of this product is going to be individual. So never prescribe this to people, never tell people they have to do anything. Emphasize their attention on them listening to themselves, allow them to ask you questions, prompt them to ask their healthcare professionals questions about what effects are supplements going to give them, where are the researches regarding safety, regarding proven efficiency of the supplements that various experts recommend you, where is the research, where are the results, and not in just no-name publications, but in internationally acclaimed, noteworthy studies and clinical documents that are being published in things like the Nature journal, like in the Scopus journal, which is part of the Scopus Society. Just read there, we have translators built into every browser. Allow your healthcare professional or your doctor, ask them to show you. And here you've seen on my slides, I've got links to all the researches, I've got the links to the polysaccharides, and these works have been published in big noteworthy journals. And there is a lot of knowledge about homeostasis, about fucose, about the continuity and the sustainability of the elements of the plasma. And ask your healthcare professionals how to stop taking the medicine or how to stop taking supplements without harming your health. Because if you're taking pharmacological goods, what is going to happen after you stop taking them? Ask your doctor, how am I going to stop taking this medicine or this supplement? Because we need to recover, because this is essentially poisoning your body. How can we reduce to the minimum, or how can we stop taking various medications, which is what I'm talking to you about when I'm talking about AngioLife, together with your doctor. But we need a doctor to be good, like Paluk, like Fechenga, so the good doctors who actually understand what they're doing, who understand that you are consuming here like insulin or something else, or you're taking something that makes your blood less viscous. So slowly reduce the goods. Your doctor needs to be clever, and they need to make sure that you are under observation. So ask questions, read on about homeostasis, about biology, about polysaccharides. All this is present for you to study. So I was very happy to see all of you here. Thank you. And I'm going to go and make myself this green smoothie. I'm going to record how does it look like. Yeah, I'm going to show you the technology. Artyom, are you ready for our cocktail video shoot? Anna Anatolievna, you're also ready? Okay, then we can get things ready. Okay, then we are going to go and we're going to shoot more content for you guys. Yeah, we're going to get some cocktail movies out there. Was happy to see all of you. All the best. So, see you soon. And let's move forward.